Hey, yo, everybody. It's John. Gonna do a little live programming here in just a sec. And, yeah. Here we go. Hey, welcome back. So, last time, I think we left it with this guy. And we'd done some art on here and got it to a place that I liked. And now I've just got a few, I guess, small things to finish up on the to-do list for this thing. And one of them is adding in the ability to choose which direction it rotates, basically, in the editor. Nothing like... hold on a second, I'm trying to log into my Trello here. Why do I hate Atlassian so much? When did they take over Trello? All right, here we go. Yeah, I was thinking. So I need to add a parameter here that lets you choose the direction that it's rotating in. I was thinking about adding something that lets you choose the speed that it's rotating, but I think maybe not. I think just for now, just changing the direction that it rotates in would be fine. So let me bring up one of the levels and we can see what's going on here. Let's do this. It's in here. Hey guys. Oh, I'm dead. So there's my laser beam in action. And if you bring up the level editor like I just did, and you click on it, you see it doesn't have any options here. But what I want to do is add a button here that lets you have it rotate the other way. So, to do that, let me end the game here. To do that, I've already got all the framework built in the editor for handling this sort of stuff. So what I need to do is just add the variables. So the way the editor looks for this stuff is through these export variables. So I'll just create a new one, call it clockwise, set it to true. This gives it the editor a hint that it's a Boolean, true or false value. And that alone should make it appear in the editor. Let's just do it this way. Right, so there it is. It doesn't do anything, right? But it's there. The interface is there. And the editor already has code to save this automatically in the levels, load it in the levels, and set the values. So that infrastructure is already taken care of. I just need to put the code in here to do it. So this is what is controlling the rotation right now in physics process. So I can just say if clockwise, then do that. Otherwise, do that. So this just says rotate at rotation speed, which is 15 degrees per second times the delta value. And this is in degrees, but rotation is in radians, so this function does the conversion from degrees to radians. Radians go from... I mean, this is one of the areas where, like, if you don't know, people ask, you know, how much math should I know to do game development? And a little bit of trigonometry is not going to hurt. So this adds the rotational speed each physics step, and this one subtracts it. So this one will make it go counterclockwise, this one will make it go clockwise. And I think that should be it. I'm going to put in a check here, though, too. You don't really need to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So this just puts some bounds on the rotation value to keep it within a 0 to 360 range. You don't need to do it, but I don't know what would happen actually if the game, because this will just keep increasing and increasing and increasing. If you're on this level for a long time, it could potentially go up to millions of degrees, which should be fine because it's just a circle. But maybe there's some weird floating point issue. I don't know. Anyway, I like to keep it in this range, so that's what I'm doing. So then, when I go in here, yeah, look at that. See, it's already working. I didn't even have to restart the game. I love that about Godot. So I just wrote the code, I saved it, and now if I say clockwise, it'll go that way. And if I turn off clockwise, it goes the other way. And if I play the level from the start, what it'll do is it'll save this level data, reload the level, and if it's turning this direction, then that'll prove that it's, to me, that it's saved this value correctly. So here we go. Hey Del Frank, I don't know what the completion percentage on this game is. Yeah, see, it's going the right way. So all the saving and everything's fine. I think it's pretty complete. What I'm working on right now are just some more enemy types, basically. Because one issue I have with the level design is that in my mind there wasn't enough variety in the things that you could do, and the simplest way for me to add more variety would be to add more enemies, more types of obstacles, things that you can put in the level to make it more interesting to play. So that's what I'm working on right now. Just adding a few more different types of enemies and obstacles. And what's interesting to me about this kind of stuff is, like, I added one enemy type here, right? This laser thing that rotates. But when you combine it with all the other enemy types, it sort of multiplies the problem space, the choices that the user can make, the player can make, right? So, like, if this was the only thing in the game, you could, it's not that interesting. But if you combine this with some turrets that are shooting at you, and like a gravitational field that's making you fly in a weird way, then this just sort of multiplies the action. So the more things I have in here, the more possibilities there are, and the more interesting the game should be. That's my theory anyway. Alright, so that works pretty well. I can click it, change the direction. I thought about having a thing in here where I could change the speed, like a slider. Like for these guys I have, well, no, I don't have anything. Well, for like, what is it, fuel tanks? Where is one? There it is. So like these guys have a slider for the fuel, right? I thought about adding a slider like that to this for doing the speed that it's rotating, but I don't know. I've kind of gone back and forth. These guys used to have parameters that let you control their vision range, this arc, and their health, and a bunch of other stuff, but it was just slowing me down in creating the levels. So instead I went back and just ripped all that out and decided it's faster for me to just come up with some good values for these, and just that'll be it. So they're all the same, right? They all have the same hit points, they all have the same vision radius, and these visualizations then are really just to give the level creator some idea, some guidance about where to place these things, but you can't configure them anymore. I don't know. I may go back the other way and switch it, or maybe in a future update, people will say, hey, I really wish I could change those things. So maybe I'll add them back in then. But for now, I'm just sort of limiting what you can configure and what comes stock. Okay, so that was actually really easy. I'm glad that was easy. I think that's going to mark that off my list. So I'm a little percent closer to finishing now. Look at this. I'm going to move this. Where is it? I'm going to remove my rotating beam emitters to done. All right. The other thing I wanted to start on here, since that went so fast, is I wanted to build a like heat-seeking missile launcher. Yeah, why not? Let's just go for it. I think the heat-seeking missile launcher should be... So I'm thinking about... What I'm trying to do here is I'm thinking about which of these enemies I'm going to copy as my base for this. It's going to be a non-moving enemy. It's not going to have very complicated logic or anything in it. I think I might just copy this guy. Yeah. Let me look at this guy. I think the launchers are going to be something that you can't destroy. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see. I think for now it'll be something you can't destroy, and they launch missiles at you. And so the missiles sort of harass you the whole time. I don't know, would that be any fun? Maybe it would be too much. It would be like, so if the missile launcher is just launching missiles at you, say it launches one every 5 seconds or so, it's just something you have to deal with while you're in that area until you leave the area. If you can destroy the launcher, then you would want to prioritize killing the launcher before it launches too many missiles, just so you can be done with it. And then you could loiter in the area for as long as you like. I don't know. I was thinking about this for a while now, but of course, I just put in on my to-do list, I write down things like, heat-seeking missile launcher. I think, oh yeah, that would be cool. But then I get to this point, and I'm like, would it be cool? I don't know. It's one of those things where you could do some analysis paralysis, but I think the quickest way to find out if it will be cool or not is just to make it. So let's do that. So I'm going to save this scene. Let's just make a copy of this scene. We'll save it as launcher. Call this launcher. This has a script attached to it, and I want to be careful not to overwrite my other script, so I'm going to make this a unique script, and then I'm going to save it again as the launcher script. And let's make this simple. I don't think I need... Well, we'll just leave it for now. Yeah, that's fine. That's all fine. So let's change the... Oh God, making new enemies. So far ago from Frisco. I lerp my seeking missiles. I might lerp them as well. My seeking missiles are going to be rigid bodies, so I'm going to force them. I'm going to fly them with physics forces instead of lerping them. I don't know, look how many frames of animation this thing has. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, God. See, I look at this and I go, oh, yeah, I'm making a new enemy type. Look at how much animation I'm going to have to make. Good Lord. Yeah, that's a good idea, Frank. Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, they're not going to be like super fast, like, you know, Mach 6 missiles. I want the player to be able to dodge them. But I want them to be quick enough that they're a danger, right? Like if you don't take evasive action, they will hit you. And they'll be able to fly around obstacles, so even if they're, you know, even if you have some cover, there's something in your way, they'll kind of fly around it towards you. So it's just one more thing that the player has to deal with all at the same time as everything else that's going on. And maybe you like, you know, you pick up the reactor and you're starting to fly away with it, and then 2 missile launchers appear and start blasting missiles at you, and you're like, oh crap, you have to drop the reactor, deal with the rockets. It can be, yeah, it can be fun. Exploded the scope. It won't be too bad. It's actually not, well, I don't know. We'll see how far we get, but I don't know. I don't think it'll be that bad. I've already got like drones that fly around, and those know how to see, quote unquote, see the terrain and fly around things. These things will be a little bit simpler than those, I think, because they'll kind of just go forward and be able to steer left or right a little bit. I don't want them to be too nimble or agile, right? So you could still like fly them into things. They're not going to be like, I don't know, Terminator missiles that never miss. Yeah, it's fine. Let's just leave that art there for now. So these things are going to be able to do all this stuff. I don't know what the health is going to be. Let's just make it really big for now. Call it a launcher. They're not going to shoot bullets. They're going to shoot missiles, which I have to make. That'll be a whole new scene. Yep, that's fine. Keep that. Yes. Fine, yes. Spawn bullet, right? So instead of spawning a bullet, it'll spawn a rocket. Yeah, so this is, I mean, it's pretty much exactly the same script as the, let me just undo that just so I don't have any errors. Pretty much the same exact script as the blister thing. There's just going to be a couple of small differences. So let's make a rocket for it to shoot. And the rocket I want to be a rigid body. And let's call it missile. Yeah, let's call it missile. It will have a collision shape. Let's go with something simple like a capsule. And it's going to have a sprite. Yeah, I'll change that to an animated sprite or something later, but for now, sprite is fine. And this guy is going to collide with, first of all, what is it? It's an enemy. let's call it an enemy, not an enemy bullet. The way I'm using these layers is the player can shoot enemies, but he can't shoot enemy bullets. They're just a different collision layer. But enemy bullets can hit players. But, yeah. But that way the bullets aren't colliding. You can't shoot down enemy bullets. So I'll make the missiles enemies. They can hit the player, and they can hit the world, and they can hit structures. Yeah, that's fine. And let's save that in enemies as well. And we'll add a script, even though I don't know what's going to be in it yet. Here we go. I mean, probably it's going to be a lot of the same stuff. Just copy that. Let's say missiles have 1 health, and let's call it missile speed. Don't need a cooldown. Don't need that. Don't think I need that, actually. I am gonna need this. Again, this is how I'm using in my game when I'm checking when 2 bodies collide with each other. I check this entity type ID, which I'm putting on every rigid body and every static body in the game. But for my next game, I think I would rather use groups and just put it in the missile group and check what group it's in. I think that would be easier to deal with. I'm just doing it this way now because that's the way it is in the game already, and I don't want to go back and change everything. So this is the way it is. I'm stuck with it for now. And then I want to copy the health stuff. I want that. Yeah, I want this. Yep. Let's do this. So I'm not going to use all this stuff, but some of it I'm going to use. Let's just do that. Let's not do that. Maybe. Probably do want to add some points for destroying a missile. Yeah, that's fine. Do I have a signal? So when it dies, it'll explode. It'll create an explosion, it'll shake the screen, it'll add some points, it'll emit a signal when it dies, right? So before Gravity Ace, what was my developer background before Gravity Ace? I've been programming for a long, long time. And I've been making web apps for a long time. Hey, is that Quidgy Pixel? Am I saying that right? Welcome. So I've been making basically a web developer for a long time, and so a lot of front end, back end code, JavaScript, database programming, that sort of stuff. But just in general, programming for a long time. My degree is in electrical and computer engineering. So I've been pretty technical and interested in algorithms and programming for pretty much all my life. Okay, so this thing has some basic boilerplate here now, right? This is just stuff to make it work within the framework of the editor and the game that I've written so far. And I don't know, probably there might be a better way to do this stuff, like if I had some parent class for all enemies that, you know, defined some of this stuff, but I don't know. For now, I'm going to have a finite number of enemies. You know, it's not like I'm going to have hundreds and hundreds of them. There's going to be maybe, I don't know. Right now there's 5, you know, so I'm not too worried about copying code or whatever at this point. And at some point, maybe I'll have 20 enemies. It's just not that big a deal to me to copy and paste this stuff. And every bit I copy and paste is going to be a little different anyway. So I don't feel like I'm going to gain a whole lot from like refactoring a lot of this. So it's all data driven, or I don't know. Maybe if I was making something different, like an RPG or something with like 1 million different enemies, then it would be different. But it's a lot of money in web dev, though. It's not a bad living. So I'm working on trying to get a guided missile working, making a new enemy type. All right, so I've got a missile scene. So this launcher now, instead of shooting bullets, it's going to shoot missiles. Ugh. Missile, right? And where I had bullet, I'll change that to missile, change that to missile. And so with bullets, I was putting them in position, rotating them into the right direction, and then applying an impulse to shoot them. But I'm not going to apply the impulse to the missiles. They're going to be self-propelled. And it's a missile. And then I'll add the missile. So this code just says, actually I'm not going to do, I don't need to do that. The code that I copied this from, that blister launcher, it would shoot 5 bullets every time. This one's just going to fire 1 missile. And what is the direction going to be? The direction is just going to be that. However, the missile launcher is rotated. I think that's right. XY, right? Yeah. So it's going to choose the direction, create a vector for the direction that the missile is going to launch at, which will be just the rotation of the launcher itself. Instance a new missile, put it at the right position with the right rotation, and then add it to the game tree. Then the missile should just take over. It's going to have a physics process, or maybe it'll have a integrate forces. I think physics process will probably be enough. I don't want it to be affected by gravity, so I'm going to change the gravity scale to 0, so gravity doesn't work on it anymore. Yeah, that should be enough. I think physics process should be enough. So a missile needs to have acceleration. Let's just do that. And it needs to have a speed. Let's call this max speed. We'll call that 300. Yeah, let's do that. it needs to have a collision signal. Like that. If body is, I think that's right, die. Actually, I probably just wanted to explain. Oh, let's see. Is rigid body 2D. If body dot has method hurt, then body dot hurt, and then die. Try to make my own game work. It's fun. Yeah, it is a fun hobby. I like doing game dev. I mean, this one I'm trying to make some money with. We'll see, but I'm not. I'm not pinning all my hopes and dreams on it. You know, if it doesn't work out, it's fine. I'm keeping my day job. This is the scripting language that comes with Godot. This is GD script. It's Python-ish, Python-like. I don't know. A lot of people love C#. I think if you like C#, go for it. Me personally, I didn't know. I know a little bit of C#. So when I came to GD script, I mean, when I came to Godot, you couldn't program in GD script or in C#. GD script was the only language you could use. So I just learned it. It's fine. I mean, for me, learning this took about a day. If all it had was C#, I'd have probably just learned C# and it'd have been fine too. Either way you go, it's fine. I think C# support right now in Godot is a little bit, it's not quite fully baked yet. I mean, I think it works and I know there are people using it. But I don't think it's probably got a few warts still, a little couple of rough edges. But it should be totally usable. I know they're shipping C# support now for making mobile apps as well with Godot. So it should be fine. I don't think that there's any advantages or disadvantages really for using either one. One reason I like using GD script is that there's basically no compile time at all. I mean, I write this, I hit F5. That's it. It's done. It's running. I love that. You can also use typing. So you can say, this is a bool if you want to. And you get kind of that type safety checking stuff. C# is probably interpreted a little faster because it's a compiled language. I've seen benchmarks that show that it's a little faster. But in practice, in most games, I don't think it matters. I mean, this game, for example, has a ton of stuff going on all the time, and it's getting sometimes up to 900 frames per second. It just doesn't matter. Other games, you might have, 1,000 different, simulating 1,000 different leaves on every single tree or something. Maybe C# would help you there. I don't know. Okay, so this says if the body, so there's a signal on body entered. When this physics body hits another physics body, it's going to call this method. If the body is a static body, which is things like a structure or the geometry for the actual terrain, then it'll just explode. It'll die, which it calls this, and it says, if I'm alive, then make me not alive, and explode, and shake the screen, add some points, and whatever. Oh, that's interesting. Well, and then if it's hitting another rigid body, and that rigid body has a method called hurt, then call that method on the rigid body. So if it hits the player has a method called hurt, so it'll hurt the player. And then die. Yeah, I mean, the performance thing, I don't know. Everybody seems really preoccupied and worried about performance before they've even written their game. Like, just write the game and see if it needs it first, and then worry about performance later. I don't know. That's just my advice. Nobody actually does that. Nobody believes it. So, it's fine. Do whatever you want to do. Where I said this was interesting before was, so I don't have any like kamikaze enemies in the game. So when they die, it's because the player shot them. This one is a missile, so it can die when it hits something, even if it wasn't the player that did it. And in those cases, they shouldn't get any points for getting killed if the player didn't cause it. I'm not sure how to fix that here, but I'll just add a note. Player shouldn't get points if missile kills itself. Probably need to do something like check if it's colliding with a player bullet and then give the points. If it's not a player bullet, then no points for you. All right, let's add a little visualization here just so I can see. Just so I can see it. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I just want to see something. Go like this. We'll call that a missile. Right. How do you rotate this thing? Here we go. So you'll notice the collision shape is bigger than the sprite. That's on purpose. I want this thing to be easy to kill. The player's bullets are moving so fast that you're not going to notice if it's pixel perfect or not, the collision. And making it easier to hit is more satisfying anyway. I didn't make these things so that they wouldn't blow up. You want them to blow up. Alright, and then let's just do something simple here. When these things get launched, they should accelerate in the direction that they're aimed, and then up to their max speed, right? So, do I even need physics process? I could just say, what is it? Apply impulse, right? What does that one do? This is the 3D version. And this is the 2D version. They should work exactly the same, but right, so this applies just a one-time impulse like you're hitting it. And that's not what I want. I want to apply a force. That's what I want. I want to add a force. So this says maybe I want this one. So this will add a steady force to the center of the object. And it's constant. And if you remember your high school physics, a constant force will cause the body to accelerate. See all this complicated stuff, add force, add central force, apply impulse. I think this is why people recommend when you're doing a character controller or something to use kinematic body, because you have direct control over the physics and everything. Because all this impulse and force stuff is, I mean, let's face it, it's kind of complicated. I think I wanted you, yeah, of course, every game developer should have taken high school physics and internalized it, right? I think I'm going to do this, integrate forces, but I'm going to have to refresh my memory about how this works by looking at one of my other guys. And let's see, this guy. Integrate forces is interesting because it allows you to basically override the built-in physics with your own physics. You get passed in the physics state, which is this is basically a handle to the internal physics simulation going on in the game, and then it lets you do whatever you want with it. It's also safe in this method to change things like the velocity and the angular velocity, the physics parts of the simulation. You can change them safely here without disrupting anything. So it's nice. This is my drone. And the drones fly around. They do some dodging. They do some collision checking, raycasting to see if they're near a wall or something. They move away from walls. They steer towards the players. They change their velocity, they speed up, they slow down, they go forward and back. So it does a bunch of fun stuff in here. And I think what I want to do is I want to do this. So I'm going to copy that into my missile. I'm not going to do that. Fly. They're just going to go ahead. Oh, let's do that. Let's change. Yeah, that's fine. We'll do acceleration. Pop, 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 pop. And then clamp their max speed. Pop, 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 pop. So this should cause it to accelerate up to the max speed. Simple. The linear velocity will just, every time this is called, it's just going to keep adding the acceleration times the delta. So this is in like pixels per second, right? And this is pixels per second. So by multiplying it by delta, you're ending up with pixels per second. And then I say here, if the linear velocity length, which is the speed that we're going, is greater than max speed, then I just say linear velocity equals, in the direction it's going already, the max speed. Dot normalize says take this vector and then normalize it to a unit vector so that the length of it is 1, and then multiply that by the max speed. So you end up with, it basically will shorten the direction vector to the max speed, making that the magnitude of the vector, so it won't go any faster than that. And it just does this every physics frame, which is, in my game, 60 frames per second. Okay. Let me... Alright, so now I need to get this in the game somehow, right? I was just watching a tweet today, and the guy was saying, yeah, I just added a thing where if you hit the enemy just right, it disarms them and makes them drop their weapon. And he showed it, and the guy flew to the moon. He just disappeared. I don't know what engine that was, but it wasn't Construct. I don't think it was Godot. It just, yeah. Physics, this physics stuff, it's not like real life, and it's complicated, and it's easy to screw up. This is pretty simple, though. I don't think this is going to screw up. So to get into the game, though, I need to do a couple of things. One, I do have some data here about the different props that are available in the game and enemies. And I want to add another enemy type here. This is my missile enemy. I'll call it a missile. No, I'll call it a launcher. I want a launcher enemy. And we'll call this the... Put the placeholder image. I have a placeholder little icon. And this will be launcher scene. So now the editor should know about the launcher and be able to place it in the game. So it'll place one of these. And then this thing should shoot a missile every cooldown seconds. Let's make that like 3. Is that a variable? Yeah, it is. Let's make it 3. I don't need bullet speed. Yeah. So the launcher, what it's going to do, the relevant part here is that it calls the shoot method. What does it call it? So it first calls it and prepare for gameplay. This is a method that gets called whenever a level starts. On every object in the game, the editor checks, does it have this method? And if it does, it calls it. So this one will get called when the level starts, and it'll call shoot. And shoot here will start the cooldown. And then does a bunch of checks, if I'm not alive, if the player's not alive, if I'm already shooting, if I'm not on the screen, then do nothing. Otherwise, it's going to shoot. And it plays this animation. And this animation firing is probably... Where's the animation player? Firing. It calls spawn bullet here. So all this stuff, it was made for this blister enemy. I'm going to have to readjust all this, right, to work with the launcher. But just to show you how this is working right now, it'll play the animation, and when it gets to here, it's going to call spawn bullet. So the animation player will call spawn bullet, and spawn bullet will create my missiles. And then the missiles, as soon as they're in the game, will start doing this, which means they'll start flying straight ahead and until they get their max speed. And then when they hit something, they'll die and explode and shake the screen, and it'll be fun times. Let's see if we can get one in the game. Excuse me. So there's my placeholder. Right? It looks like the blister thing, but it's not, and that's why I need to create some new art for it. And if I play, I have to save it. Let's save it in a test campaign. Oh. It's saying leaving combat zone because I don't have any terrain anywhere. When there's a check, if you're not close to a terrain, some ground, then it thinks you've left the playable area, and it gives you a warning to go back. And anyway. It tried. It tried. Was that because I had a typo in there? Yeah. Let's try that again. So I've already saved that, so it should still be there. No, it's not a typo. Int an object. Int an object in operator multiply. Oh. That's why. Integrate forces doesn't take a delta. So how did I get delta? There it is. I'm warning you guys right now, I might be a terrible programmer. Yeah, you got it, Javi. Vector 2 and float. Vector 2 and float. Invalid operands. Vector 2 and float. Plus. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Ah, boy. This should be... How is that working here? Yeah, it needs to be a vector 2. But I copied it from here. Why wasn't this working? What is this? That's what I was leaving out. I just deleted that because I don't need that, but you do need it. Or something like it anyway. So this needs to be a vector. This is a vector. I can't just add a scalar to a vector. So this will be linear. Let's do this. Right? I think that'll work. I'm not trying to make this perfect. This is sort of my style. I hack at stuff until I get the bare minimum thing working. And it's ugly. It's ugly. But then once I get it working, then I put the lipstick on it. Okay. So I was trying to add, because I shot one of the missiles, it was trying to add some points. And it's like, hey, there's no points for destroying a missile. So let's add some points. Destroy missile is worth, I don't know, 1,000 points. Why, though? Why wasn't it... Oh, you know what I should do? I should make the missile not collide with structures. So then it won't collide with the launcher. Let's see how that works. Yeah, so I write code. I just try to get the bare minimum working, and then if I get it working, then I go back, clean it up, optimize it if needed. Yeah, so it's creating the missiles. They're just not doing anything. Maybe I got this wrong. No, that's the right signature. Do I need to turn that on in some way? I don't think I need this on. Right? Because my drone, I don't think it has it on. Right? This is only, you would turn this on if you only want it to work with integrate forces. If you leave this unchecked, then it'll still be, Godot will still run its physics on it and your physics. If you turn this on, it'll only be affected by your physics. So why isn't it going anywhere? This will increase the linear velocity in the direction that it's already going. Oh, unless it starts out going 0. The initial vector is 0, 0. So it's never going to speed up. Let's do vector 2 rotation. Let's call that direction. Just to make it easier to read. So I'm setting the direction to equal to a vector pointing to the right. That's then been rotated by the rotation of this object. And then I'm going to just change the linear velocity so it keeps going in that direction, but increases by the acceleration scalar every frame. See what happens. Hey, look at that. That's some cute behavior. Can blow them up. Oh wait, they're not blowing up. Oh, I know why. Because I'm exploding them, but I'm not actually freeing them, right? Where's my die? Die. Right? Oopa? Ooh, that's neat. So they can hit me. Look at that. They have momentum, right? Because they have some mass. Ouch. All right, so now to make them seeking, I need to get a vector to the player, and I can copy that from my drone as well. Drone has a vector to player, which I can get here. Let me just copy this code. So I want the missile to keep going, accelerating the direction it's going. And actually, I'm going to adjust these later. It felt like they were accelerating a little too fast. But it might be going too fast as well. Let me do that. Let's do that. So this is going to calculate distance to the player, and I have this global game object. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but I have this auto load, loads a global game object. In this global game object, I keep a reference to the player. So at any time in any object, I can just say game player, and it gives me the player, and then I can get its position. So it's easy to compute the distance to the player. So this would be my global distance, or my global position, which is the missile's global position, and then it calculates the distance to the player's global position. So this will just end up being a number. That's the distance in pixels to the player. I don't know if I need it, but I just copied it from that other thing. We'll see. And then this is the vector to the player. So from the player's position, I subtract my position and then normalize it. So I get a unit vector pointing to the player. So this will accelerate in the direction I'm going. And then I want to also turn towards the player. And I think I need to put a rotation speed. We'll call this degrees per second. Let's say it's let's say we can turn it 30 degrees per second. All right. So here, oh God, I'm trying to remember my dot products now. Oopa. Every time I hear oppa, I think of Greek. I will, like, you know how they throw dishes in the fireplace? I don't know if that's actually a thing that Greek people do, but I've seen it in movies. And they say oppa when they throw the dishes in the fireplace. I don't know any Greek people. So this basically just needs to say each frame rotate, because I'm already doing here, I'm saying keep flying the direction you're going. This just needs to change the rotation a little bit. How does the dot product work again? If it's negative, that means it's to the left, and if it's positive, it's to the right. Velocity dot. I don't even know what to dot product it with. With direction, right? Somebody help me out here. Is that right? There's something about dot product, right? Dot product for determining side of line. Use the sign of the determinant of the vectors. If 0, it's on the line. If it's plus, it's on this one side. If it's negative, it's on the other side. So this would be the dot product of oh, Jesus. It's been a long time since I've done any vector algebra. Well, let's just try it. If, let's do this. Here product equals this. If product is, let's print it too. If product is relative to the missile position, missile direction, and player position. Right, so this is missile direction. Actually, this is missile direction. And then this is, I want vector to player. So this is the missile's direction, and this is the direction from the missile to the player. Right? Let's see. Greater than 0, then I don't even know. Rotation plus equals rad rotation speed delta something like that. Anyway, this'll tell me if we've got it right or not. I'm not good at math. I took so much math in college. No, oh, so you can't just add a constant like this to a script while the game's running, because the game will be like here, right, when you paused it, and then when you go back to continue playing it, it'll just keep stepping through the code, but it's here, so then it gets to here and it's like, I don't know what that is. It doesn't start over, you know, and reinstantiate everything, so you got to start the game again. I never learned Latin either. I'm hopeless. I don't know Latin. I barely know my math. I barely passed in, so in college I had to take like math every quarter. And I remember I barely passed my third year calculus class. All right, it's doing something. Okay. Maybe. It's not turning though, is it? Bam. Oh. Oh. I'm doing like a pit maneuver on these things. Alright, so it's not turning. No. Let's see. Let's change this to like something big. Interesting. Look, it's changing when it gets to the right of me or to the left of me. But it doesn't matter if I'm above it or below it. Right? I'm not sure what that means exactly. Why don't I do this? Instead of doing this dot product that I don't understand. Yeah, there might be. I think that's kind of what I'm going to go towards. I've already got the vector to the player. So what I can do is just What can I do? I could just add them. How did I do it in the drone? Yeah, so the drones don't turn. They just go towards the player. They don't have to deal with this turning nonsense. I think I can just say... I mean, that seems close. Let's just keep it just in case I change my mind. But I could just do linear velocity, vector to player, no? Yeah, the documentation is actually pretty great. That was my biggest complaint. Yeah, I mean, it's still probably my biggest complaint with Godot Engine is that the documentation could be better. And I'm saying this as a person who's never once contributed to the documentation. But what I would like to see in the documentation are examples. I think that would go a long way. That's not right. We could do a lerp. Let's see. Rotation. Is that right? Is that a method? So this will lerp the rotation from the value that it's currently at to that angle. Let's see. Yeah, it's doing something. See that? It's not actually going in that direction, but it's trying to turn in the right direction. Let's make it turn a little bit faster. Let's do that. Right, see now it's turning in the right directions. Kinda. Oh, that's a weird ugly edge case there. Ah, this is so annoying. Is it? Yeah, maybe you're right. Still does a weird thing there. just don't like that. Why isn't it going in the direction that it's rotating in? I guess you could calculate the rotation before you set the velocity, but this is a global. I mean, this is a property of the missile. So it's going to be this value on the next frame anyway. So I don't think the order matters. But yeah, let's try it. I don't think it'll matter. Oh shit. Javi, why did it work? Damn it. Oh. Oh, get away! It might be something funny in the in just because of this method where it's doing something funny, but maybe it's just something I'm doing wrong in here as well. I don't know. My eyes kind of hurt right now, so it's hard for me to tell. Yeah, you do. You get all the brownie points, Javi. So this should say, why isn't this dying when it hits the player? Look at these. Do I not have that? No. Let's do this. This one surely has one. Yeah. Bias method hurt. Right. That's what it is. Let's do this. Do that. Oh God, I don't like this. Let's do that. That simplifies it, right? Yeah, if it hits anything, it's going to explode. Boom. If it hits something which has a hurt method, then it's going to hurt it. And my shield has a hurt method. Right, so it should make the shield go down. Let's see. For some reason, though, it's not. It might be because the shield actually has some code in here when it collides with something. It checks its linear velocity. That shouldn't apply. Yeah, that shouldn't apply at all. Close that, close that, close that, close that. Put a breakpoint there, see what it's doing. I am going to put you guys in the credits. Everybody's helped me out so much with this game. I need to give credit to everybody. So how come this isn't getting called? Why isn't this even happening? Because the collision mask is wrong? It's an enemy, but it should be hitting player in the world, which is all my terrain and everything. Player, which includes the shield. It's weird. Maybe I need to reload this thing. Got no problem getting hit by player bullets. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's because... Right, that's all fine. It's because I didn't put on the contact monitor. Bing. If true, the body will emit a signal when it collides with another body. So... without turning this on, this signal will never happen. So I just have to turn it on. Now, it should collide with things. Let me start it again. Boom. And when it hits the wall, oh yeah. Yeah. So this should take out the shield. Boom. And the shield. There we go. I just need to fix that weird turning bug. That that needs to be fixed. That's getting there. Is it fun though? Yeah, I think those are cool. That'll be fun. And you'll add some, I'll add some smoke coming out of the back, like a trail of smoke. These are going to be really smoky, dirty missiles. And I think I'm going to add in some wobble so they don't fly perfectly straight. Like these are very smooth the way they fly. But I think I want to add some wobble into them, like old, you know, I don't know, like old cartoon anime missiles. And I think I want to add something like, I don't know, I may want to slow them down. Just a tad. I think the turning radius is okay, right? Pretty easy to pretty easy to dodge. Right? If you need to. Yeah, I think you're right. Let's see. I didn't even know there was a lerp angle thing, but I guess this takes care of the like going from 180 to not 180. It like picks the shortest angle between them instead of going all the way around. Yeah, when the angles wrap around. Yeah, let's try that and see what happens. Shoot. Why did it do that? See this? Internal script error, opcode 0? Sometimes it does that when you change the script while the game's running. Sometimes it doesn't. It's fine. Nope. That was a good guess. I'm sure I'll figure it out at some point. But I think that's interesting. I think they're dangerous. I obviously need to work on some art. I need to work on some visual effects for the smoke and stuff. I need to work on the parameters here. The speed, I think, is a little too high. I think the turning angle... The turning speed is probably pretty good. The speed is a little high. I want to make it a little easier to outrun these things. Oh, this died because the player was dead and it was trying to shoot another thing. If game.player something like that. That's wrong, but I need something like that so that if the player dies, they just keep going straight. Yeah, I don't think that's wrong, but whatever. All right. I think I have to let this sit for a little while now. So I like it. I do like them. So for this guy, I need to replace all this art so it's like a missile silo that opens up. I want to see the top of the missile kind of peek out to let you know that it's about to launch. A bunch of smoke and fire, and then it launches. I want it to start accelerating it'll start slow and then accelerate up to speed and then chase the player. I want it to be kind of cartoony and wobbly. So there's a lot of little art and physics stuff I need to add in there, little details. But the overall concept of having the guided missiles, I think, is fun. And so I guess basically I was able to find out that would be fun just by hacking this crap together very quickly. And now I can spend some time refining it and making it nice and actually adding it to the game. But not today. So right now I'm going to switch gears and work on a prototype. So I'm working on another project. I haven't worked on it yet, but I'm starting another project that might end up being my next game. And yeah, that's fine. Yeah, something like that. So I'm going to spend a little time just working on a prototype for it. So here I am starting from scratch, and the first thing I'm going to do is I created the folder. Right. Where is it? There's soccer gun. And the first thing I'm going to do is this. I don't know if I'm going to keep this prototype or not, but it takes 2 seconds to set up a Git repository for it. So just set up source control. And then I want to set some project settings here. And because it's a prototype, I'm just going to pick a really tiny window. Let's do this. 360 by 180. That's about as small as I want to go. Gravity A's runs at 640 by 360. That's the native resolution. And that's nice because you can get quite a lot of detail, actually. The sprites end up being about 32 pixels, maybe 128 for a big one. And that's plenty of pixels for a lot of detail. This is much smaller, obviously. And so the sprites are going to be like 16 pixel sprites. So definitely a lot less detail, but that's a good constraint to have when I'm doing a prototype because I don't want to spend a lot of time on putting in detail. And if I only have 16 pixels to work with, then I won't. I just won't be able to. Yeah, so that's that for now. Right, so it's tiny, right? This is the whole play area. That's 100% zoomed in, right? That's 360 by 180. Is that right? 640 by 360? No, I want 320. I want 320 by 180. There. Oh boy, maybe. So let's do this. I'm going to close that, do new file. Let's call it 320 by 180. I'm going to make a little soccer field. And first I'm going to pick a color palette. I think I want like I said, I want to try and keep this as low detail as possible. How do you see the palettes in here? Isn't there a folder with like default palettes? Could have swore. Presets, that's what I want. Maybe something like that. 4 colors. I don't like those colors. I need green. Let's go with this. And yeah, these colors are fine. Let's create a soccer field. Is this really only 320 by 180? Shoot. Right. Something like that. That seems not right. That seems like way more pixels. Well, that's fine. Let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens. that? Do I want that? Yeah, look at that. That's right. Turn on snapping, pixel snapping. Right, save this. Main. Yeah, there's the game. Let's turn on full screen. Let's have it do 2D. Let's have it do viewport and have it do keep height. There we go. All right. Is this really the 90s? Maybe. All right. So I've got my field. Call this the game. Got my soccer field. And now I need a player. Let's do 16 by 16. And we will call you that. And then we'll put a notch here so we can see. This will be the front of the thing. So when it's rotating, we can tell which way it's facing. Oh man. Stick to our palette, shall we? Okay. Hey, Jesse. Right now I'm working on a prototype for a game, a new game. It's not secret or anything, but I guess nobody knows about it yet. Javi and I were prototyping a possible future game, which is basically soccer with guns. But I don't know if it'll be any fun. So part of what we're trying to do is figure out, will it be any fun? And to do that, we want to create a prototype and just find out. So this will be the ball. So I have a ball, right? I have a player. Those are about the right size, right? So the player will be here, and he'll be kicking the ball around, trying to get it down to the goal. Those sizes seem okay. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if this game's going to end up being 3D or whatever, but for the prototype, it doesn't matter. If this turns out to be fun, then if we make it 3D or whatever, it should still be fun, I think. We're just trying to get a feel for like the very basic mechanics of the game. So I want this to work with my gamepad. So let's add up. Down. Left, right. And we're going to do this. Nope, that's wrong. Left stick up. Did you make a soccer game with guns, Nick? Am I doing this right? Sorry, I gotta go look back at Gravity Ace and see how I do that. How am I doing the mapping here? Yeah, that's right. Oh, gotcha. Every player in this game will be a monkey. I don't know if that bothers you or not. That's what I want. Okay. Just trying to refresh my memory of how this whole input mapping stuff works. Yeah, it'll shoot homing missiles, and then after 30 seconds, right, the field will start getting smaller and smaller until everybody explodes. Up, down, left, and right. Up, down, left, right. It's all in your imagination. Right, left, down, up. Godot 3 added this input action strength thing, which is nice. Because it abstracts the gamepad a bit, but this whole adding the right and subtracting the left, it's a little, I don't know, it's a little clunky, but it's fine, it works. It is what it is. And if I print move H and move V, if I just test that real quick, let's do this. Let's turn off the full screen again. Turn off full screen for now, just so I can see the output window. Right, so that's left, right, left, right, up, down, right, and in between. So that's my inputs on my gamepad flying by there. So this, I think, I want these all to be kinematic bodies. Yeah. So let's delete that, let's add a kinematic body 2D. Yeah, it's fine. We'll call this player. We will add a sprite, which is our player. We will add a collision. That. And this will be a circle. Perfect. And we will move this thing here somewhere like that. It's fine. Yeah. And then in here, I will say player move and collide. So I'll confess, I haven't used kinematic body. Yeah, kinematic, whatever the heck this thing is. I haven't used it very much, so I think that's what I want to do. And I want to do, let's say move equals move h plus move v. Something like that, right? Infinite inertia. So it'll move it and it'll stop if it collides with something. I don't know if that's what I actually want. Collision 2D. Yeah. This is where I confess that I hate programming. I wish I could just tell the computer, just make this guy move. And sometimes he can catch a soccer ball and let the soccer ball stick to his feet. Let's just see if that works. Let's see what we got. Nope. Of course not. Argument float to vector 2. Oh. No. I can move it around. And I want to do something like something like that, right? Oh, too fast. Too fast. Speedy. Yep. Do you want to do delta? I thought move and collide and move and slide took delta into account already, automatically. Okay, so move and collide you do multiply, and move and slide you don't. For reasons I don't want to think about right now. And we probably want to add, let's do this. Let's add a static body and a collision shape. And we'll call this a rectangle. Right. do that with it. Right? Something like that. That. Oop. Oh, you see how it's doing that? It's because all these collision shapes are just, they're all using the same, this resource isn't unique. So I'll make it unique. And then I can change just this one. Actually, you know what I can do? I don't think I need all these static bodies, right? I can just have one static body, put the shapes all in one. Right? I think that'll work. Like that. Oh, now I'm going so slow. But it worked. Let's change that back to 200. Man, making a controller that feels good for a soccer player is going to be tough. It's going to be tough, Javi. What happens if I change it back? Move the slide. That's fine. Yeah, it'll be fun. Okay. Then I'll also need a ball. Kinematic bodies, do they have like velocity and things like that? Let's call this one ball. Yeah. Agreed. Put our ball and this whole thing. Add a collision. Call it a circle again. Make it a little smaller. Right? Okay. So this should just have me, yeah, colliding with the thing and not being able to move it, which is fine. You used rigid body, huh? Well, I mean, you were doing the whole physics version. I don't know. I do like using rigid bodies. Isn't there an API on kinematic body for getting collisions? Get slide collision, get slide count. Yeah. Got it. Okay. This is the kind of examples that I want to see in all the documentation. In this particular one, that was cool that they have that there. This example usage. But there's a lot of documentation that doesn't have an example like this. Probably, I mean, this one's, it makes sense. There's a lot of, the documentation on this one is really good because everybody uses kinematic body 2D. It's a very popular node. So this should tell me when I collide with the ball, right? Bap, bap, bap. Okay. You can add velocity to kinematic as well. Interesting. So this is the collision. This is the gamepad input. This is the move. This is going to be ugly. If collision dot collider name equals ball, velocity, collision info, normal. Oh, you can get the normals from the collision as well, huh? Asteroid bounce. Oh, that's cool. Okay, and then if has ball, ball, yeah, something like that. Bap. Now I got the ball. Pass, pass, pass. All right, let's make a button. Let's make a kick button. Passing button, kicking button. Input map. Kick. Button. A. If has ball and input dot get. No. Is action just. Is action pressed. Kick. Then has ball equals false. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's see what happens. So I should be able to run into the ball and get it, and then push A and drop it again. Right? And then let's do a thingy. Let's see. Always on top. Let's do that. Let's do a thingy where angle equals move.angle. Let's do that. Right? It didn't do anything. Move dot. Is it this? No. Oh, I'm doing that. That's why. I don't want to do that. Let's do that. Move dot angle. Whoa. Player dot rotation. I was rotating the whole field. There we go. I like them apples. So you can see the player rotating in the direction he's going, right? And so now we know the player is rotating in the direction he's moving. We can put the ball in that same position, right? Like that. Left, right, up, down. And I can kick the ball to get rid of it. All right. Let's put the ball into its own scene because I want to give it a script. So I'm going to save branches scene. We'll call it ball. So now this is its own scene. I can add a script to it. And this script it'll have a physics process. And do I even need that? I don't know. Let's add a kick method. And if you kick it, it's going to do something amazing. This doesn't have any like so Jesse, that velocity thing that you were just posting about, move and collide, velocity times speed times delta, that velocity variable, you're just keeping track of that yourself, right? And then in physics process, moving it as needed. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So, whoops. So I would need to have, in the ball, I need to have a velocity. And let's do that. And here, this will be move and slide velocity, right? So this is why rigid bodies are so great. Even though the physics moving them around is maybe more tedious, because you get all this bouncing and collision and, you know, ricocheting off of things. It's all just automatic. It just comes with the rigid body. Maybe the ball should be a rigid body. Let's not worry about it right now. So then I'll say velocity equals. So, I mean, a lot of people recommend use a kinematic body, right? Because a kinematic body doesn't do anything unless you tell it to. There's no side effects. So if you're using if you're doing like a character controller, like for a Mario type game, right? And you want him to jump, then you have to code the jump, and you do move and slide or whatever, and you control the velocity, and it makes a perfect jump. If you're doing it with a rigid body, then you probably have to apply like an impulse force or rewrite your own physics and integrate forces, and it can be more complicated, right, to make it move just the way you want it to. And the trade-off is, in a kinematic body, you have to do all of this extra stuff to get it to bounce and friction and, you know, all that stuff, right? But the rigid body is less predictable. Yeah, exactly. I don't even think the physics engine is fully deterministic. I think it might change, like the results you get might change from run to run. I don't know, this seems like a natural fit though for a rigid body. But if I did change it to a rigid body, can I do this? Do kinematic bodies still collide with rigid bodies? And I for sure can't just do this. You can't just pick up a rigid body and move it around, because it screws up the physics simulation. Let's just try to get this working. So this will be direction normalized times 200, something like that. And then here, I'll say ball, kick, right, something like that. Could do it in like this, move dot normalized. So whichever direction you're moving in, that's the direction it will kick it. Yeah, kind of works. Kinda. Is there a way to set that in the project settings? Yeah, always on top. So the ball will get kicked. Let's change that to move and slide in a top-down. I mean, move and slide, the only point of it is to give you, to be able to move the kinematic body and be able to collide with things, right? Like, I could just change the position of it, but then I think you could put it inside other physics bodies. It wouldn't respect the collision. Oh, I mean, I had it be move and collide a minute ago, but the problem was when you got to the edge of the arena, that it would just stop when it hit, and now I can kind of slide along the edge. Right? If it was move and collide, I think it would just stop here. It would be stuck. But now I can slide across it. Yeah, that's fine. So I can pick up the ball, I can kick it, I can move around with it. Oh, I want the ball to be able to bounce. How to make the ball bounce. So I need to do my collision thing. I don't want that. Don't care about that. Don't care about that either. I only care about one collision. And then I want it to bounce. And this gives me the position of the collision, the normal. What's travel? Ah, interesting. Okay. So if get slide, nope. If get slide count, right? This is the ball. Okay. If it's colliding with something, then get the first collision. Normal equals collision dot normal, right? And then we can say velocity normal times velocity something like that, right? Let's see. Nope. Kinda. The reflection's wrong. Yeah, the reflection is wrong, but it worked in that case. God, the more I struggle with this, the more I'm thinking of switching it to a rigid body. So the reflection would be the angle between the... How you doing, Max? Hey Max, do you know off the top of your head, what's the formula for calculating the reflection angle given a angle of incidence? Snell's law. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna trust you, Max. I'm hoping you're not trolling me right now. I'm not gonna see something awful on my screen. Look at that. Right, so I have this normal, and I have this vector. So I need to calculate this angle, and then calculate this vector bouncing off, right? Or I could change the ball into a rigid body 2D and just let the engine do it. So I have my velocity angle to normal. That might not be right. Like that? No, that's not right. Be that. Something tells me this is going to be completely wrong. Not because you're wrong, Max. You're right. But because I'm doing this math wrong and because I don't understand exactly what all of these are doing. So that's the reflection angle, if everything's right. So then the ball should be going in vector 2 rotated reflect times velocity dot length, something like that. See that? See that bounce? It almost works. So close. It's like it's only reflecting one direction. Yeah, screw this. I'm changing this to a rigid body. Do. And I need to change this to rigid body 2D. And I can delete all of that. And that's not going to work anymore. And this, I don't think is going to work, but we'll see. Just delete. No, let's leave that. It's affected by gravity. See all that bouncing you get for free? I love it. All right, let's turn off gravity on the ball. Not quite bouncing like I'd like. Does this have... Let's do that. Oh, that's why. Bounce. Have to restart it. There we go. Look, Max, we're playing soccer. This is a 100% faithful and accurate reproduction of soccer, as I know it. I don't think a human can tell the difference between this and actual soccer. Yeah, that works. So you see what I mean, Jesse? Kinematic bodies are great, but sometimes, I mean, you could just get all this extra behavior out of the ball for free by making it a rigid body, so why not? And in the case of the ball, I don't want to control it directly in most cases, so yeah, that works out perfect. So this doesn't work though, and again, it's because, I think it's because is that working? Collide balls. Does the collide ball work? Yeah, see, it's not colliding with the ball anymore. I mean, it collides, but it doesn't tell. It doesn't know. See, I'm not getting the collision signal. don't know. I don't have enough experience with kinematic body 2D to figure this out. Or at least I'm going to have to noodle on it a little bit. Between triggering, I don't know what that means exactly. So this was checking for collisions. And it works when I hit, oh, maybe it's because, right? And then this. Maybe it's that? I don't think so, but maybe. Maybe there's a bunch of rules in there's a bunch of rules in Godot about which things can detect collisions with other things. And I'm trying to remember, but one of the things might be that you can't detect a collision directly between a kinematic and a rigid body, but the rigid body can detect a collision with a kinematic. There used to be a table in here that would tell you. Oh, there's a method on bound. Oh. Look at it. So that math I was trying to do, there's a method on the vector. You just give it the normal and it calculates the bounce direction automatically. Maybe I'll change it back. Yeah, let's change it back. God damn it. So I don't need any of this garbage. I just need to say velocity.bounce normal, right? Yeah. Let's see what happens. Look at that. Catch that ball. Now we're playing soccer. All right. So you were asking me, Jesse, earlier about like, should I use C#? Should I use GD script? Maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was somebody else. I can't remember. Somebody was asking, should I use C#? Should I use GD script? I'm trying to look back through the chat to see who it was. I can't find it. The language isn't the hard part. The hard part is learning all of the API built into the engine, which, means finding out about things like the bounce method on vector objects. And that's going to be a problem whether you're learning Unity or whether you're doing C# or whether you're using JavaScript or whatever. You still have to learn the engine. That's the part that takes the most time. The language itself really doesn't matter very much. I mean, use what you like. Some people are going to be very comfortable using C#, so they'll be productive in it. So go ahead. But if you're coming to it and you can't decide, and you're trying to weigh the pros and cons, I don't think there's really much of a difference. It's all the engine APIs. Where was I? Oh, so I want to change that bounce on the ball. Right now, this just tells it bounce it with 100% reflection. But I want to do something like that, so it slows down a little bit after each bounce. So slow down a little bit on each bounce. And I can give the ball some friction too. Let's see. Let's call it something like that. And maybe, let's see. Like I said, this is all just prototype, so it doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be correct necessarily. That's too much friction. It's just got to feel right enough, because it's all this code is throwaway. It's going to get rewritten at some point anyway. Friction should be much higher. I don't like that. There's probably a method for calculating friction. Let's say friction is 20. And then here I'll say something like that. Nope, that doesn't work. Oh, I want 1 minus, right? Yeah. That's better. So now I've got some friction from the grass. Boom, boom. And the crowd goes wild. Let's turn that down even more. So I have my friction number. I'm dividing it by 1,000 because I want it to be very small. But I want to be able to play with bigger numbers here than 0.99 or 0.9999. So I just want to, now I can play with a number like 40 or 50 or 100, you know, or 2. And I have more, I don't know, it's just easier to type. I have more range here to mess with. It ends up being the same, right, math-wise. It just makes it easier for me to play around with the number. And then, I mean, I might want at some point to have this relate to something physical, like pixels per second or something like that. But that's not what this is doing right now. And like I said, for the prototype, it doesn't really matter. All right. See how he turns around? He always faces right. When I let go of the stick, it always faces to the right. And I would like it if he just kept looking the direction he was already going. So that's going to be in here. And it's because this probably returns a 0 if this is 0. If the vector is 0, the angle is probably going to be 0, which means it's going to face to the right. So I don't want to do this rotation unless move.length has some value. Right? I think that'll be it. Yeah, so now it just keeps facing the direction you were going. And I want to be able to kick the ball when I'm not moving. So I want to do something like vector2 dot rotated in the direction the player is facing. So now I can pick up the ball and kick it while I'm standing still. Went the wrong direction. That worked. Something wrong with that. Oh. Player rotation. I have to remember, I'm writing this script. This script is in the game, not in the player. I might move this. Like one strategy would be to move this into a player script. But the reason I'm having it here is because I'm foreseeing a future where there might be multiple players on the field that are all on your team, and you can switch between them. And so the controller, some of the players will be AI sometimes, and sometimes they won't. And maybe having the control code outside of the player is the way to go. That's kind of my thinking here. I don't know if that's right, but that's kind of what I'm thinking ahead to. So now I can kick the ball when I'm moving. I can kick it when I'm standing still. It bounces around. I can pick it up. I can run with it. I think I want to make it so one thing it's not doing is it's not adding the velocity of the player to the ball. So this is my kick method on the ball. Let's add another thing here. Didn't it say something about kinematic body 2D calculating? The sync to physics. No. Estimate of the linear and angular velocity. Move is the vector of the controller input. It's not necessarily how fast the player is moving at that moment. So this says simulated motion. When these bodies are moved manually, the physics will automatically compute an estimate of their linear and angular velocity. But where does it put that information? Oh, nothing in there. Oh, it returns it. Okay. Okay. Returns the linear velocity vector. That would probably work. Let's do that, and then in kick, in the ball, I'll add a velocity. With a default value, and I'll do velocity like that. Let's see what that does. Yeah. So when you're not moving, it's going to kick it at that speed. And when you're moving, it's going to add your movement to the kick. That's kind of fun. Still think maybe the friction's too high. But, I mean, it's a small field. Yeah, that's fine. Because it's a small field, right? It's kind of fun. Kind of fun. All right, well, I think that's enough for now. It's almost midnight here. And I have work in the morning. I did not know that, Max. Is that only true with a fully inflated to regulation spec size 5 pro soccer ball? Or is that like compresses more? Cool. I don't know if I'll add rubber ball compression physics to this, but maybe. Could probably simulate that. So, soccer gun, the idea was soccer with guns. To finish making the prototype and see if it's going to be any fun, I still need to add some AI players. I want to test out mechanics of passing the ball between teammates, and I want to test out shooting opposing players, which would work sort of like a tackle, sort of like a slide tackle, but instead of sliding on the ground, you just shoot them. And there's no killing in this game. Imagine they're rubber bullets or something, right? And it takes a while for you to reload, right? So the way I'm picturing it is if two players are coming after the ball, they can choose to shoot, in which case they would, disable the other player temporarily and they would be able to get the ball. But then they're reloading, so they're more vulnerable, right? Or they could try to parry the shot. And I'm picturing a scenario where one player shoots, and if you dodge or slide at just the right moment, the shot would miss, which means you would get possession of the ball. The other player wouldn't have his gun, and you could just walk away with the ball, and you would still have your shot and your shotgun for taking out the next guy who might be coming after you. It's like a 3-on-3 type of situation. I think that could be fun. But to prototype it, I still need some AI players. I need to do the passing mechanic, and then I need to add the shotgun and, whatever mechanic it is. So that's going to be a bit more work. And like I said, it's already midnight here, so I'm going to go to bed. Thank you for everybody for watching. I know this is a bit unusual because you probably know me from Gravity Ace. But, with everything going on, and I was a little burnt out on Gravity Ace. I'm not giving up on that project by any means. I'm still working on it. I worked on it a little bit earlier today. But this other project has been a nice diversion, and it's making me kind of excited again. I don't know if you've worked on a project for a long time, you've probably felt this, right? After a while, you're like, ugh, I hate this thing. I want to work on something else. So working on something else is perfect. It's giving me some extra energy, and I'm feeling like I can bounce back and forth between these two projects and be more productive, hopefully. We'll see. So if you don't know, go to gravityace.com. Follow me on Twitter. Wishlist the game on Steam. Please tell all your friends about it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for helping me with my terrible programming. And I'll see you next time. Adios, everybody.